Welcome to every NHL team's first game. We will be talking about when and where the game happened and what the final score was. Also, I will address teams that relocated, but I will not include their first game. I will only talk about their current team's first game. And I will only be talking about the team's first regular season game. You are free to skip to your favorite team's part. Alright, enough talking, let's jump right into it. The Anaheim Ducks. The Ducks were named after the Disney classic, The Mighty Ducks. Their original name was that, but they later changed it to the Anaheim Ducks. They played their first game on October 8, 1993 at their home rink at the time, the Arrowhead. They played against the dominant Detroit Red Wings. Their first goal in franchise history was scored by Sean Hill during a power play in the second period. Even though they had lots of promise and multiple fans at the start, the Ducks lost their first game 7-2. Next up, we have the Boston Bruins. The Bruins are part of the original six and were the first American NHL team. They played their first game on December 1, 1924, defeating the Montreal Maroons at the Boston Arena by a 2-1 score, with Fred Harris and Carson Cooper scoring the Boston goals. The next team is the Buffalo Sabres. Their first game was played on October 10, 1970, against the Pittsburgh Penguins at the Pittsburgh Civic Center. Defenseman Jim Watson scored the first goal in their franchise's history. Buffalo would win the game 2-1 thanks to Watson and Hall of Famer Gilbert Perreault's goals. The fourth team is the Calgary Flames. The Calgary Flames played their first NHL game on October 9, 1980, ending in a 5-5 tie with the Quebec Nordiques. The Flames were founded in Atlanta in 1972 as the Atlanta Flames, but they relocated to Calgary in 1980. The first goal in Flames history was scored by Guy Chenard. The next team is the Carolina Hurricanes. They were originally the Hartford Whalers, but they relocated in 1997. The first Canes game was played on October 1, 1997 at Tampa Bay against the Lightning. The first goal was scored by Kevin Dineen. The Hurricanes lost 4-2 in the end. Next up is the Chicago Blackhawks. The Hawks would play their first ever game on November 17, 1926, at the Chicago Coliseum, defeating the Toronto St. Pats by a 4-1 score before an above-capacity crowd of 7,000. The Blackhawks' first goal was scored by George Hay at 3:30 of the first period. The sixth team is the Colorado Avalanche. The Avalanche were originally the Quebec Nordiques, but they relocated in 1995. The Colorado Avalanche's first game was on October 6, 1995 at McNichols Sports Arena in Denver, Colorado against the Detroit Red Wings. The Avalanche beat the Red Wings 3-2, with Valeri Kaminsky scoring the first goal in Avalanche history. Next up is the Columbus Blue Jackets. They played their first game on October 7, 2000 against the Chicago Blackhawks. The first Blue Jackets goal was scored by Bruce Gardiner at their rink, the Nationwide Arena. Columbus unfortunately lost their inaugural game 5-3 to Chicago. The next team is the Dallas Stars. The Stars were also originally a different team. They were originally the Minnesota North Stars, but they relocated in 1993. The first NHL game in Dallas was played on October 5, 1993, and was a 6-4 win against the Detroit Red Wings. Minnesota native Neil Broughton scored the first Stars goal in Dallas. Eighth on the list is the Detroit Red Wings. The Red Wings were originally the Detroit Cougars, but they changed their name to the Red Wings in 1932. The team played their first game on November 18, 1926 as the Cougars, but I couldn't find any information about who won the game or who even scored their first goal. Unfortunately, sometimes the older teams don't have much information because of how old they are. The Edmonton Oilers are next, and are one of the many teams that came from the WHA. They played their first game on October 10, 1979 against the Chicago Blackhawks at the Hawks rink. The first Oilers NHL goal was scored by their first ever draft pick, Kevin Lowe. The Oilers lost their first game 4-2. Our next team is the 2024 Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers played their first game on October 6, 1993. The game ended in a 4-4 tie against the Chicago Blackhawks on the road. Scott Mellanby scored the franchise's first ever goal. Next up is the Los Angeles Kings. They played their first game on October 14, 1967, and the Kings defeated the fellow expansion Philadelphia Flyers 4-2 in front of 7,023 people. The first Kings goal was scored by Brian Kilray. The Minnesota Wild are the next team on the list. The Wild played their first game on October 6, 2000 against the Anaheim Ducks. They would win that game 3-1 with Marian Gaborik scoring the first goal in team history. The next team is the oldest team and the team with the most Stanley Cups at 24, the Montreal Canadiens. Again, because the Canadiens are so old, I can't find their first NHL game. But I did find their supposed first goal in NHL game. They played their first National Hockey Association game on January 5, 1910. The score and opponent are unknown. The supposed first NHL goal for the Canadiens was apparently scored by Montreal legend Joe Malone. Team 14 is the Nashville Predators. On October 10, 1998, the Nashville Predators played the first game in franchise history against the Florida Panthers. The first Predators goal was scored by Andrew Brunette on October 13, 1998 against the Carolina Hurricanes. They are one of the few teams that got shut out in their inaugural game, which ended 1-0. Next up is the New Jersey Devils. The Devils were originally the Colorado Rockies, but they relocated to New Jersey in 1982. They played their first game as the Devils on October 5, 1982 against the Pittsburgh Penguins. The first Devils goal was scored by their first captain, Don Lever. That game ended in a 3-3 tie. The next team on the list is the New York Islanders. The Islanders played their first game on October 7, 1972. The Islanders ended up losing 3-2 to the Atlanta Flames in front of a crowd of 12,221 at Nassau Coliseum. Ed Westfall was the first Islanders captain, and he scored the Islanders goal. Next is the second New York team, the Rangers. The Rangers' first game was played on November 16, 1926, in front of a packed Madison Square Garden against the Montreal Maroons, who they would go on to defeat 1-0. That lone goal was the first Rangers goal and was scored by Bill Cook. Team 18 is the Ottawa Senators. The Senators' original team was started in 1883 and ended in 1934. They were brought back in 1992 and are considered a different team from the old one. The modern team played their first game on October 8, 1992, at the Ottawa Civic Center, defeating the Montreal Canadiens by a score of 5-3. The first Sens goal was scored by Neil Brady. The Philadelphia Flyers are next. They played their first game as a part of the 1967 expansion on October 11, 1967. They went up against the California Seals and lost 5-1. The first Flyers goal was scored by Bill Sutherland. The 20th team is the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Pittsburgh Penguins played their first National Hockey League game on October 11, 1967 at the Civic Arena against the Montreal Canadiens. They would end up losing the game 2-1 in front of 9,307 fans. Andy Bathgate scored the Penguins' first goal. As we are slowly nearing the end, I just wanted to say thank you very much for watching, and if you are enjoying this content, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment on what your favorite team is. Okay, back to the video. Our next team is the San Jose Sharks. The Sharks played their first ever game on October 4, 1991, against the Vancouver Canucks at Pacific Coliseum in Vancouver. They would end up losing their first game 4-3 to the Canucks. Craig Cox scored the first goal in team history. Team 22 is the Seattle Kraken. The Kraken played their first regular season game on October 12, 2021 against the Vegas Golden Knights. The game was a 4-3 loss on the road. The first Kraken goal was scored by Ryan Donato. Next up on the list is the St. Louis Blues. They played their first game as a part of the 1967 expansion on October 11, 1967. They went up against the California Seals and lost 5-1. The Blues and Minnesota North Stars played to a 2-2 tie at the St. Louis Arena, with the Blues' first ever team goal scored by Larry Keenan. The next team is the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Lightning played their first game on October 7, 1992. They would end up beating the Chicago Blackhawks 7-3. The first goal ever scored in Tampa Bay was by Chris Contis, who would go on to score 3 more goals that game. The next team is the Toronto Maple Leafs. The team would be called the Arenas and later, the St. Patrick's. As the Leafs, they would play their first game at Maple Leaf Gardens in November of 1931. No score or first goal is recorded. It is speculated that George Patterson scored the first goal, but nobody really knows. The next team is a brand new team that relocated from the Arizona Coyotes. The Utah Hockey Club. Their name is temporary and fan votes are choosing the permanent name. Put your vote for the name in the comments below. Utah has not played their first regular season game yet as of the time of recording this video, but their inaugural game is scheduled for October 8, 2024. Next up on the list is the Vancouver Canucks. The Nucks played their first game on October 9, 1970 against the Los Angeles Kings. The game ended 3-1 with the away team Kings winning. The first Canucks goal was scored by Barry Wilkins. The 28th team is the Vegas Golden Knights. The 2017 expansion team played their first game on October 6, 2017 against the Dallas Stars. They would beat the Stars 2-1 with James Neal scoring the first goal in franchise history. Next up is the Washington Capitals. The Capitals took on the New York Rangers at Madison Square Garden on October 9, 1974. The Capitals would lose the game 6-4 with Jim Hrycrook scoring the first goal in franchise history. The final team on the list is Winnipeg Jets. The Jets, like the Senators, were originally a team, but they relocated. The current Jets were originally the Atlanta Thrashers, but the Thrashers relocated. The Jets played their first game on October 9, 2011, when a sellout crowd at the MTS Center saw the visiting Montreal Canadiens defeat the Jets 5-1. Nick Antropov scored the first ever Jets goal. That is the end of this video. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more informational content. See you later.